So they got there in the end. Manchester United are through to the next round of the Champions League. Does it actually matter how they did it, or does it all matter that they're there?
You're better being there playing badly than playing well and not being there. But it's Manchester United Football Club, and the level of performance is not what the fans want to see. And Ray and I was watching it, talking, and young boys in the final third, if they were better, they could have beaten them. It was another poor performance, but they've won. And he could argue that the win in Juventus that gave them the chance to have an off day. But it's too many off days, isn't it? They've got so many tremendous players, and I don't know why they're so lacklustre. It was a lucky win.
Well, it was a situation. There probably a lot of fans wouldn't have even seen the goal. They would have gone because it was one of them sort of performances. It didn't look like there was going to score. Young boys had a couple of really good chances on the break. They just in that final third they lacked a little bit of quality. But you know they're frustrated at the moment. The Man United fans. We saw after Crystal Palace at the weekend. You know, another blank tonight. Fellaini, last-minute goal, and you should be, you know, you beat them 3-0 away from home. They're coming here and saying, well, we've got an opportunity maybe to turn them over, but we expected to lose this game. But Jose looks like he was over the moon at the end, you know, find the drinks bottle everywhere because, you know, it's a big result. It's still gone through. There'll be other clubs who've still got to do a bit of work in the English clubs. So, you know, Spurs have got to still do a bit of work, Liverpool as well. So you can always say it wasn't great, but they're into the next stages of the competition. The
fact is that they've done it. It's a huge game for them. He said he wants to be top four by the turn of the year. If they still had it hanging over their heads that they hadn't yet qualified, that takes so much pressure off them, doesn't it?
Well, even the draw wasn't the end of the world, but for me, it's all the coaches, the best coaches I played for were insistent on level of performance because if that stays high, the results generally come. I've seen a lot of United. I mean, the games where they lost at West Ham and Brighton, lacklustre performances. The game against Palace the other day, Wolves at home, that one there tonight. It's the tempo. It's the lack of. I don't think the players going out there not trying. I just think there's a. Could it be fitness? Are they a bit against the way Jose wants to play, the philosophy of him, if you like. Subconsciously, you know, if you're not going on the pitch happy with the way you're setting up, then you don't give your best. I just think that the lack of tempo you see United play with it's on the commentary, it was mentioned a lot, you know, there was no urgency.
I think the best performance has been second half at Newcastle. Now, they went out, they was down 2-0. So they've got to go out and do something. They've got to go out and score 3 goals. So I don't know why they don't start the game like that, whether they, you know, go out and play like they used to. I mean, that's a problem. Whether someone's holding them back, they're lacking a little bit of quality at the moment, but also lacking a lot of confidence.
Do you think they're even more inhibited and perhaps lack that confidence at home in particular?
Well, you've got to handle pressure. I mean, there's always pressure on any player. When you're playing in the Champions League and you're expected to win at home, which Manchester United are on quite a few occasions at home, then the crowd do get on your back a little bit. And, you know, I think the performance is what they're seeing. You know, some of them passing and the movement, it's just not there. They just look like they're too many individuals and not playing as a team.
Sorry, I was just going to... Players have to take some responsibility, though, don't they?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, we can talk about Jose all day long, and when you're playing for any club, at any level, actually, but one of the biggest clubs in the world, the first thing I'm thinking is, I don't want to lose my place in the team. So you have to run about, put yourself about, say to the manager, you can't leave me out. And then if you put everything in and don't play well, you know, most people hold their hands up. But they look flat. And the contradiction really for Jose's teams generally is that in the Chelsea side, powerful, athletic, fit, could overrun you late in games. Inter Milan side was fit, strong, well organised. They don't seem to have that about them, but they're through, aren't they? And actually, how many times have we looked in the past at managers playing good football but not getting trophies and getting criticised for it? Jose needs to find a way to win something this year, and if he does it in a pragmatic way, he's not going to be...
See, manager's always going to get the stick, and Jose knows that. But the players have also got, as Danny says there, as soon as you cross the white line, the manager's job usually is, during the week, getting you prepared. You know exactly what your job is for the team. When you cross that white line, it's down to you. You know, you get paid on a Saturday or whenever you play big games. And, you know, there's too many occasions when them players... And I reckon when they're walking off that pitch after the game, probably 4 or 5 of them say, I could have done better today. I could have probably put another 10% in effort, and it might have helped my mate out next to me. And I don't see that at the moment. I'm sure there's a lot of regrets when they walk off and say, maybe we could have done a bit more today. And Jose can't do a lot about that.
But do you think, though, I find... I don't believe there's a massive group of players at United who are all against him. I don't believe that. But I believe that, in my experience, that if you get a small group of players who aren't happy and aren't quite with him...
If they're influential in the dressing room as well.
It's infectious, isn't it? And you can't carry a few at that level, at this level. And it seems to me, body language, things that get said in the press, accumulation of events that's happened, it seems to me that there's a group, probably an influential group, who aren't happy with what's going on.
I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Obviously, it was a late win, and it was a lacklustre performance, but that's them through. And
Ray was well chuffed when it went, wasn't he?
Oh, it's a situation where, you know, I was like, they're good for me accumulator, but, you know, it's a situation where, again, as you rightly say, you know, they're through to the next round, and that's all you can do. You know, you've got Juventus in it. They went to Juventus and beat them. You know, fantastic performance. So it wasn't a great performance tonight, but Jose can take a lot out. They kept going, and they ended up getting a breakthrough, which they needed. So, look, as much as we can say it wasn't a great performance, but they're still through to the next round.
Listen, it won't say great performance in the results pages, will it? It'll just say 1-0.
How many times have people played really well and lost a game?
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of occasions when that happens, and it could have happened.
What did you make of Jose's reaction on the goals? You said not just one set of bottles, but two, smashing them into the ground.
Well, I don't know about the young kid at the front of the stand there. He got soaked. He's got a little bit of orange all over him, but yeah, no, I think that's just relief, really. I mean, he knows he's under pressure. He knows that it wasn't a great performance, and he's come right late in the game, and he's probably thinking to himself, what is the post-match press conference going to be like? We draw 0-0. It's not going to be ideal. No. Now, they've gone through because they still had to go to Valencia, and I think it's relief more than anything. He won't be too happy with the performance, but, as you rightly said, he's got through to the next stages.
How does he get a tune out of them?
If I knew that, I'd be managing United. Look, I think he's not the type of guy that's going to change his philosophy and attitude to how he gets his success, because his history and his trophy haul is phenomenal. So he believes in what he does. Although I would suggest that, you know, over recent years, times change a little bit. Players do become more powerful. Players do become more demanding in what they want or how they want to play. And I think the other thing we're forgetting, you know, their neighbours are playing scintillating football.
Yep.
And winning. And the other people they don't like, the Scousers,
yep,
are also playing good football and winning. And that makes it worse for United fans and puts more pressure on the manager of Manchester United.
I think he's just having too many run-ins. I mean, every time I pick up the paper or press, he seems to be having a go at people and negative, and, you know, I think he's got to put his arm around a few players and be a bit more, you know, he knows they're not playing well, but you do that behind the scenes. You have a little word with them behind the scenes. You can't keep going to the press, and we've had this issue with the youngsters.
Well, you talk about the youngsters. There was a shot of him tonight. Marcus Rashford, an opportunity goes away, and Jose turns around in full with everybody, turns to his bench, arms folded, and just shakes his head like that. Now, if you see your manager do that when you see the clips later on TV, would that bother you?
Probably not.
No.
I mean, you look at it and say, well, OK, you know, he'd probably be disappointed. Rashford, he probably said, well, I should have done better there. And, you know, so you can't... I wouldn't be too bothered about that. I mean, Rashford's bigger than that. He won't be worried about that. He'll get another opportunity and then he'll put it in the back of the net. And then Jose will be clapping him. So I don't think you can take too much from that. And I'd be amazed if the press or anybody went with that tomorrow.
No, because he'd be shaking his head whoever did it. It's not a personal thing.
Well, Luke Shaw said, didn't he, you've got to be thick-skinned to play for the manager. Well, but you've got to be thick-skinned to be a footballer in the first place, haven't you?
It's a big club.
You're under a lot of pressure. There's question marks about you every single time you take the field. So it wasn't necessarily even saying about Jose Mourinho, but he can handle whatever's said about him in the press now, Luke Shaw. And he seems to have matured, doesn't he? He seems to be able to take it all in stride.
There's certain players in dressing rooms where you've got to know their characters. Now, some will... if you give them a kick up the backside, they respond to that. Suddenly they're, OK, I'm going to show you. And there's others who probably go in their shell a little bit and don't want to know and say, well, wait a minute, what are you having a go at me for? And start getting our agents involved. And, you know, that's how it is, football. You've got to know your characters. And Jose, and football has moved on, like Danny said. I mean, it's totally different to my era and Danny's era probably, because a lot of the work was done by the players. The manager would set you up, ready to go, but if you don't do your job, there'd be players pointing at people saying, what are you doing over there? You're affecting me here because you're not doing your job. Now, I don't know if that happens now, because I'm not in dressing rooms anymore. And that's where Jose will have to step in and probably do it himself. But I think the characters are a little bit different these days.
I'm just wondering, something you said there, Danny, about, you know, a few of those players you think will have come off and think I could have done better, could have played better. Normally, a result like that, it gives the whole place a real lift. Do you think it potentially won't have the same feel-good factor because of the nature of the win?
Well, I think you could argue the comeback against Newcastle should have done that. You know, there's moments in a season where a game you think that could be the turning point because that's what was written and that's what was said when they come back in that game. I think look, anyone can have a bad game. It's no problem. Lots of reasons for that. But United continually this season have flattered to deceive too often. And even in some of the games they've got results, they've not played particularly well. And what you're doing, you're judging them against some of the best sides we've ever seen, the United teams of Fergie and the ones we've come up against. And the fans demand, whether it's right or wrong, they demand a certain style of play. And at least energy and tempo. And at the moment, when you're watching them, teams are going to Old Trafford, no fear. I mean, young boys tonight, they played some great stuff second half. A bit more maturity in the final third, they would have won. And, you know, you're seeing, I mean, the Wolves went there, played well, plenty of the ball. Palace did all right. Palace could have won. You know, Townsend went through later on with the one-on-one. The Palace could have gone there. And Palace weren't hanging on for dear life. I mean, at Old Trafford, if you used to nick a result there, you're hanging on at the end normally, aren't you?
Yeah, but the good thing about it, they got the win. Now, that will give you a lift in the dressing room. You know, then players will come off and say, we maybe, you know, it was tough. We should have done better, but we still got the win and we're still through to the next stages. So we'll only find out at the weekend. You know, they go to Southampton away and, you know, Southampton fighting for their lives at the moment. So it's another test for Jose Mourinho's men.
No Romelu Lukaku tonight. Did that surprise you at all?
Well, his record at home has been awful, hasn't it? I mean, I don't think he scored since March time.
Well, so Sanchez wasn't there either.
Well, Sanchez was, whether he's injured or I don't know, but he wasn't even in the squad. So there's certain players who've not responded, have they? I mean, Sanchez is a mystery to me because I watched him so many occasions at Arsenal.
He was unbelievable.
He was fantastic. And in the end, it was a pretty good move to go to Manchester United. I thought, well, you know, they've got a top player there. He's going to really make their team better. And I don't know what's happened. I really don't know what's happened with Sanchez, whether he's fell out with the manager or they can't find the right system for him, they can't find the right position for him. But it's a real waste, that is.
The thing is with Lukaku, you ask about him, if you look at other players, because he's had a good spell in the United, you know, he's proven that he can play at that level, and scored goals. But when Harry Kane has a bad time, or Aguero has a bad time, or even Firmino recently, if you're looking at the other top clubs, they don't put him they don't put him in and out. They might give him the odd rest, you know, because Jesus might come in occasionally, but the manager sticks with him. You know, and doesn't matter what position you play, but more so as a striker. But you need some confidence from your manager.
I was going to say, it's like a goalkeeper. It's a very delicate situation, isn't it? And also, even more intriguingly, Jose Mourinho went to watch him play at international level, to be around the camp, to see what's happening, to try and get a feeling for what's going on with him, and then to bench him for tonight. Is that not a big call? Well,
there's some big calls tonight. I mean, Pogba on the bench, he had a poor game the weekend, and he said, well, no, you're out of the team today. There's a lot of change, 6 changes from the weekend.
Well, we don't know. I don't know, but he could have said to Pogba and Lukaku, look, I want you ready for the weekend. You know, we should beat these tonight. I want you two to have a little breather. He might not have dropped them that way, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't know.
So you don't know. And the other thing that's hard when you sit in this seat and you're not involved in a club or at the training ground is seeing how players train. Because it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. If you're not training properly and the manager sees that, he can't play you. I've seen that plenty of times where, I mean, big names I've seen picked on a Saturday when they've not trained very well in the week and even had rows with the manager and you think, you can't play him. And they play him.
But there's certain players, though, turn up for trainers and, you know, we had Patrick Vieira wasn't a great trainer, but you know on a Saturday, he does the job. He knows exactly what his job is on a Saturday. So there's certain players and there's
Yeah,
other players who have to train hard every week. Dennis Bergkamp, he trained every day. He was unbelievable. So there's certain players you have to look at as well in that respect. But, you know, Pogba at the moment, it was another poor performance. Everyone is still waiting for him to... Consistency is the key for him. We all know he's a good player, but he turns up one week and then the following week is awful. So, you know, that's what he's got to bring into his game. He needs a 7 or 8 out of 10 every single week, not a 5 and then a 9 and then a 4. You know, that's the problem with him at the moment.
Not a win, but job done for Manchester City. And
Another...
again, it's the target,
Got
qualification.
lucky, didn't
Well, there was good. Leon looked a very good side. They had a couple of really good chances in that first half. Some real glaring misses. But you always know they're going to score goals, though. You know, with the strikers they've got. If it's not them, you've got set plays. Laporte coming up and scoring the equaliser tonight, the first goal. And there's so much quality. You know, they had a lot of players out tonight, especially in that midfield area. But they've still got great players. And again, they're the ones to beat for me in the Champions League. I think they've got the squad in depth. Look, they will be fighting on all fronts. They'll be going for the Premier League, and whether they can do that, we'll have to wait and see. But they are still a quality side, and that Leon, give them a few tests tonight, which was a bit worrying for Pep. But you know, they got through in the end, and again, they're into the next round.
You get the feeling with Pep, he would almost enjoy that. The fact they were given a test, the fact that questions were asked of them.
Well, especially being behind twice in the game as well.
Yeah.
You know, that would show them a little bit of character. You know, we could have easily gone back, sat off or gone for the second goal, but you know they always create chances. You know, with Sterling up there and Silva, who's having a great season.
Sterling seems to play a slightly different role tonight.
He played a different formation, really. It wasn't their normal 4-3-3.
He was more midfield, wasn't
Well,
he?
he played. It was a 5 and a 5. I mean, it was the first time you've seen Mahrez, Sterling, David Silva and Sane supporting Aguero. And I think Pep, knowing he had the last game to fall upon if it didn't go so well, went, do you know what, we're going to go for try and get it done. But he's come up against a good side and they were picking him off. And should have been 2 up, actually. 2, I think it was Memphis, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Depay, who missed the chances. But I kind of admire what Pep did tactically. You know, instead of going, let's try and nick the draw and get it done, it's like, no, we'll just try and win 3 or 4. With the quality they got. But you have to... I think the other thing you have to understand is we're spoilt, really, watching City, because the level they play at with the ball and without the ball is hard work. You know, because when you've got the ball, you've got to move to make space. And when you haven't got the ball and he wants them to press, it's hard work. And if you're playing every 3 or 4 days, and a lot of those lads, he doesn't rest them.
No, he don't.
I mean, Fernandinho, I don't think he's had a rest in about 4 years.
He's 33 years old as well. I didn't realise he was that old. I mean, he's been brilliant, isn't he? You talk about the key players like, you know, Silva and Aguero, but Fernandinho has been sensational this season as well. He's been the one who sits in the front of the midfield, shielding, but he's such efficient on the ball when he has to be. What he does, he gives it to the better players.
But even on your own against a good side like tonight, it was hard for him. And I think, you know, what I'm saying is that you've got to expect City to have the odd dip. I say dip. Was it a dip drawing 2-2 and not the end of the world?
against a very good team.
No, but you know, in terms of what they've set themselves, the bar, because most people would thought turn up there and just turn them over, but actually they've got such a high level of performance that when most people's decent, we think they're not, but it was still decent enough to get a point.